is take you through about 10 minutes of updates from the state level, and then we will open it up for questions. I do expect that there will be a number of questions asked related to unemployment insurance benefits, and I want to give the disclaimer up front that I am not an unemployment expert, but we will chase down answers to your questions if we don't know them. So let me jump right in, starting with the HIRE program. So about 9 days ago, Governor Kelly launched the HIRE program, which is to provide bridge loans to hospitality businesses. So restaurants, bars, lodging establishments, and event centers. We loaded it with $5 million and exhausted that entire $5 million within 24 hours of launching it. There were 67 businesses in Johnson County that received bridge loan funding from the HIRE program, and we're really pleased about that. We're not pleased that we were only able to accept or approve about 30% of the applicants who applied, and that's only because of a lack of funds. And so we are kind of struggling right now to figure out if there can be some additional funds that are made available through through sources, whether state or federal, and we will keep you posted on that. We would like folks to continue to apply to the HIRE program. And the reason for that is twofold. First is that we need data on the depth of the need in the hospitality sector in the state. And so the more applications we have that flesh out what that demand is, the better we can make that case. And then the second reason is that should additional dollars come available to support another round of HIRE funding, those applications will be reviewed on a first come, first served basis. So we encourage potential applicants to go ahead and get in line in the event that there are more dollars. We designed that application to be streamlined and quick. So from what we can tell, it's taken most businesses less than 30 minutes to fill out. And so please help us spread that word. So that's it on HIRE. Number two, as I think most people are aware, the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA, did approve Governor Kelly's disaster declaration about 10 days ago. And that means that small business owners are now eligible to apply for working capital loans. There's a couple things that we've learned. One is that the volume of small business owners that are seeking help from SBA is tremendous. And so in order to respond to that, the Department of Commerce is designating all of our field reps to be trained by SBA on how to provide technical assistance to businesses that are needing help filling out their loan applications. We're doing this as a backstop, knowing that chambers across the state, our small business development centers, and many others are also providing these services and are kind of overwhelmed at the moment. And so we're trying to shift our resources and redeploy them in ways that can help meet that immediate demand from small businesses that need help. The other point on that is that the SBA money is, it takes a while for that process to work its way through. I've heard 4 to 5 weeks in some cases, and so we just ask folks to be as patient as they can be, and understand that this is an unprecedented situation for everyone, and so our friends at SBA are doing everything they can to move as quickly as they can. Third point, and this is not as relevant to Overland Park and Johnson County, but I will go ahead and put it out there just to illustrate the kind of changes we're trying to make at the state level. So there's about $6 million that's been granted at points in the past by the Department of Commerce to Kansas communities, which can be loaned out to small businesses through local revolving loan funds. And if these loans are made for working capital purposes. We have cut the environmental review process, which normally takes 30 days, down to 24 hours. And we've cut the public notice requirement on these working capital loans from the typical 30 days down to 24 hours. What that means is that local communities can push these dollars out faster. And so for those business owners who may have a presence in smaller Kansas communities, we think this could be helpful for you. And so really what we're trying to do is look under every stone to find all dollars that could be redeployed to support the working capital needs of small businesses and make it easier for those to get out there. Next item, like many of you, we've been in regular contact with both Senator Roberts and Senator Moran's offices, as well as the members from the state's congressional districts, and we just want to express our gratitude to all of them for moving swiftly on the CARES bill. And this is a really important piece of the puzzle for us as we look forward to how we recover. So the CARES Act includes an allocation of what we think will be about $1.25 billion to the state for coronavirus related expenses. There will be additional payments to local governments that have a population above 500,000. So that would include Johnson County. We're not certain precisely what that amount will be, but we're researching that at the moment. We're also pleased that there will be there's new money included to support minority business development. There's $75 million that will go to the National Endowment for the Arts, 40% of which is going to be granted out to state arts agencies. On the business loan and grant side, there's $350 billion for loans that are specifically targeting small businesses. These loans can be used to pay for working capital needs, salary, wages, rent, benefits. And in that case, the loan amount is 2.5 times the total payroll for 2 months, up to a max of $10 million. There are some loan forgiveness provisions as well under SBA and the CARES Act, and we're really pleased to see that. Essentially, these are incentives to encourage businesses to continue with their existing payroll and not lay people off. There is also a tax credit for retaining employees as well, which is worth up to 50% of the wages that are paid during the crisis. And that's for businesses that have been forced to suspend operations or that have seen their gross receipts fall by 50% from the previous year. The payroll tax is also delayed for employers, so half of the deferred tax is to be paid by the end of 2021, with the other half by the end of 2022. And then the last kind of big item, so on unemployment insurance, so there will be an additional $600 per week per claimant for up to 4 months on top of what the claimant would normally receive from states. I believe the average weekly amount in Kansas is like $350. So that will go from $350 to $950 in the state of Kansas. The unemployment insurance provision also expands eligibility to include self-employed people and independent contractors. So those are some key points from the CARES Act, and like many of you, we are still evaluating everything that's in there. It's a huge bill, and it's the largest relief act in the history of the nation, and got done in a matter of days. So it's really remarkable to have seen the federal government shift so quickly to get these dollars out. Another item here at the state level. So our Kansas Works offices across the state are closed to the general public. However, our staff in those offices are still working. We have shifted them to provide service through kansasworks.com, where we have an online chat feature, as well as by phone. And so we have seen heavy volume on both our online service and by phone. The bulk of the questions, about 70% that we're getting, are related to unemployment insurance. And so we have been working to get our staff cross-trained to support our colleagues at the Department of Labor, who last week, I think, saw a 1,200% increase in the number of claims over the previous week and had over 200,000 calls in one day to their call center. And so, our systems are simply not set up to support that volume, and everybody's doing the very best they can to respond to this, but it is unprecedented for us. An important point I want to make about unemployment is that as you hear, if you are a business that is considering a layoff or a furlough, or if you hear of businesses that are, please consider filing by spreadsheet. What that means is that the employer would give a list of the employees that are going to be impacted by the furlough or the layoff and provides them on one spreadsheet to the Department of Labor so that we can process those at one time. The alternative is that each individual employee goes and files their own claim, and what that does is just gum up the system and make it difficult for us to process the volume. So it's much more efficient for employers, for workers, and for the state if unemployment filings are done by spreadsheet when there's multiple layoffs. My last item, and then we'll open it up for questions, is that we're continuing to do calls with a variety of business groups across the state, chambers, economic development folks, Main Street organizations, every business interest group you can imagine. And the point of that is both to share information from our level and to take questions, hear concerns, and do our best to chase those down. So again, I want to stress, I am not an unemployment insurance expert. If you have with most unemployment questions, I will take it down. I've got staff with me now, and we will follow up with you to get you the answer after this call if I don't know it. And as well, on the CARES Act, there may be a lot of questions that we can't answer right now, but I will get the answers. I want to give everybody my email address that's on this call. It's David.Toland, T as in Tom, O-L-A-N-D as in David, at ks.gov. Again, David.Toland at ks.gov. And Tracy and Beth and Kevin at the Chamber have that as well and can share that. If you have specific questions, either from this call or more generally, and you're not sure where to send them, if you want to send them to me, I will make sure that we get you an answer one way or the other. We're doing our best to be as responsive as we can, and so please use that email. You're not creating more work. This is our work, responding to people. So that's what we're here to do. And so with that, open it up for questions.
Secretary, this is Kevin Walker at the Chamber. I want to thank you so much for your time. I know you have been very busy doing a number of these calls across the state, and with all of your other duties that are taking place right now. So thank you very much for your time. We've had a number of questions that were submitted when people registered, so I'll ask some of those, and some have touched on things you've referenced already, but you might want to expand on those. And then we've had a few additional ones come in that I will ask. And I'll just remind those that are listening in, there is a chat feature at the bottom of your screen. And if you would submit your questions via that feature, I'll be able to get those asked to the Secretary. So with that, Mr. Secretary, the first question we had was about the hire funds. And I know you already addressed this, but do you anticipate additional funding coming in for that since those went so quickly and it appears the demand is great?
Well, yeah, it's a good question, Kevin. We hope that additional funds can become available at this time. We don't have those identified. Uh, with the money that's coming through the CARES Act, it's possible there could be some dollars that we could use to support that. I think at this point we're at about 1,500 applications, and we funded 300, and we had enough money to fund 346. And so there is a tremendous amount of demand, but we are doing everything that we can to try to identify additional resources. And again, we encourage people to go ahead and apply just in case we do get those dollars.
And the next question that I got was regarding stimulus packages around infrastructure. Is that something you anticipate could come through all of this?
That's another good question. I don't know that there is a lot in this particular, in the CARES Act for infrastructure. There is some money that's included for airports as part of the CARES Act, and I'm looking for it right now. Let's see. Yeah, it's there's $10 billion of grants and aid for airports. And I'm not sure whether that is for operating costs or for infrastructure, but we will look at that question specifically and get back to you. Most of the CARES Act, as I'm reading it, really is about programmatic services. It's everything from, it of course includes a lot of medical related relief, as well as education relief. And, there's even low income home energy assistance, and, there's training and employment services. And so it's not as much about the, the kind of bricks and mortar projects, but that's not to say that there won't be another stimulus bill that may come out of Congress. We don't know at this point.
And I know the Chamber has been working with a lot of community partners trying to figure out what's actually in the stimulus bills, and particularly the small business relief proposals. What resources do you think the state's going to bring to bear to help our small businesses apply and access those funds?
Well, what we're trying to do right now is make sure that that we can work with the resources that we have at this very moment, which is human resources. We have people that we are getting retrained right now to be able to support the technical assistance needs that small business applicants have. So how do I fill out question 9 on the SBA loan app? Or what does my personal financial statement need to look like? And we've had great support from the Kansas Bankers Association as well as SBA in quickly getting our staff trained up here at Commerce to provide some of that technical assistance, so that these small businesses can access the financial assistance that's at SBA. So at the moment, that's what we're doing. But I would add that we have worked at a speed that is, I'd say, probably unprecedented in state government. On the hire fund, the governor gave us the green light to flesh it out on Wednesday at about 3 o'clock, and we launched it the following Friday, 2 days later at 9:30 in the morning. And that was with our website, an online form, and we processed all of those applications within 72 hours. And the money was out the door, with just a couple of exceptions where people hadn't provided us the paperwork by last Friday. So certainly we're trying to move at the speed of business and respond to the magnitude of the challenge for folks.
I know there's been a lot of discussion about the executive orders that have been issued, in particular the most recent one on the statewide stay-at-home. What conversations are taking place in terms of economic impact? How are they measuring that? And How is the business voice being represented as the governor is making these decisions?
So economic impact is absolutely a first and foremost consideration of everything that we're doing in the administration as we determine what's the most appropriate and balanced response to this public health crisis. So the priorities are health, safety, and economic well-being of residents of the state of Kansas. That is this administration's top priority. So we're trying to have a thoughtful and measured approach with these executive orders that gives a reasonable degree of flexibility to businesses that are providing essential functions under the COVID-19 pandemic. And so I would encourage everyone to go to governor.kansas.gov and look at Executive Order 20-16. This is the executive order that was issued on Saturday by the governor that has the statewide stay-at-home order. And it lists the functions that are considered essential and gives examples of each of these. So there are essentially 4 big categories. There's connect, which is about cable access and internet service and satellite access. There's distribution, which is about everything from electricity to air and rail and trucking. There's management of services. So that includes medical operations, governmental operations, banks, insurance services, and so forth. There's a long list. And then there's about supply. So this is people that are manufacturing equipment that's used for essential functions or critical infrastructure. This is about producing food and so forth. So I think what the governor's executive order does is provide a good balance between protecting public health and well-being while also ensuring that we can keep our economy strong as we get through this. It's certainly a body blow what's happening right now. I don't want to minimize that, but I think what Governor Kelly has done is make sure that the needs of business are right there behind public health and the safety and well-being of the residents of our state.
Well, I appreciate that, and thank you. It's having worked around state government for a number of years, the speed at which you all have responded to this crisis certainly is amazing, and you all should be congratulated for that. So thank you. This question may be as much for us at the chamber as it is for you. Will there be some sort of follow-up calls or assistance once the SBA has rolled out their instructions, and in particular, supporting local banks and how they get this information to businesses? What sort of follow-up do you think will be there once we get through this package and figure out exactly what's in it?
Well, this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. This is an ultra marathon, maybe, where we're going to have to sustain this level of communication and this level of assistance, and it's going to mean that the state needs to do that. It certainly means local chambers. We're all going to have to step up and make sure that we are getting the word out about how to access these services and what the services are that are available to begin with. So I don't quite, I don't know what this is all going to look like. Things change, with the COVID situations, things seem to change by the hour. They certainly change by the day. And so what this looks like, I don't know, but I think there's no question that everybody involved at every level is committed to making sure that we help our businesses get through this.
Mr. Secretary, prior to this occurring, the big focus for the department was helping business with expansions and relocations. Are you seeing any impacts of this situation right now on those efforts? And what are you all going to do to make sure that that continues while this situation's going on?
Well, I guess the good news is we're not a one-trick pony. We've got our team that's working on the response to COVID on one track, and then on another track we've got our business recruitment team that is still out there hustling and working projects. So we have continued pushing ahead with active recruitments that are underway. We announced a relocation of Superior Boiler from the state of Virginia into Hutchinson a couple days ago. I think that we announced that on Thursday or Friday. So that's 50 new jobs, small scale, but the point is we are continuing to work on our business recruitment and business development functions. And I'm doing everything I can to make sure that those staff stay focused on their job and not get too caught up in the COVID response, which we've got happening at the secretary level and then with our field reps around the state.
Another question that's just come in is in regards to a lot of small businesses have their second half property taxes due here pretty quickly. Have there been any discussions within the state of allowing businesses to defer some or all of those payments? And then I will add to that question, another one that I've gotten is just what is the state doing since we have many offices closed or limited access related to businesses, licensures and things like that? Are we looking at workarounds in case this situation should extend?
So second question first on business licenses and so forth. Yes, we are looking at workarounds, at Department of Revenue on driver's licenses as an example. Those licenses that are expiring have been permitted to be, the expiration period has been extended in order to give folks time until we have the driver's licenses bureaus open again. And so we're looking across the board at what needs to be done in different areas across state government, which is pretty vast. But we want to make sure that we are being reasonable and flexible to help folks get through this time. On the question about delaying tax payments, it has been discussed, and at this point, I don't have anything to report on that, but there certainly have been discussions.
Thank you. Remind folks we've got a little bit more time, so if you have questions, feel free to get those sent in and we'll get them asked. Scroll down here. Another question looks like it relates to the CARES Act and supporting local and state governments to continue serving their citizens. Are you aware of anything in there that's specific to the operations of state and local governments? And then the second part of that is, do you think there'll be anything else coming down from the federal level that will support our businesses and our state and local governments?
So in terms of support for state and local, the CARES Act does include an allocation of at least $1.25 billion to the state for coronavirus related expenses. We don't know precisely how that's going to be defined, but they set a floor, a minimum within the bill, which is $1.25 billion. Local governments that have a population above 500,000, so that would include Johnson County, will receive additional payments at some level. We've got a rough estimate that this is somewhere over $100 million for Johnson County. So it's still early. We're trying to figure this out. I imagine the folks at the county would have a better take on that than I do, but it is good news that the feds are providing a level of funding to be able to support this response from our state and local governments.
And Mr. Secretary, at the moment, I don't have any other questions in the queue, and I certainly don't want to drag this out any longer than we need to, but I will just ask if anybody's got any last minute questions, if you want to get them in pretty quickly, we've got time to tackle a few more. And I guess in general, Mr. Secretary, what else do you see coming down the road from a federal level? There's been some discussion of possibly a phase 4. Do you have any knowledge of what might be in something like that?
I don't. I remain hopeful. This goes to that question earlier that there will be some infrastructure money that comes, but I don't have any information on that at this point. But we're really grateful to our federal delegation for their work on behalf of our state in the CARES Act and in the bills that are going to come forth that are yet to be determined.
And another question has just come in. Will banks who are SBA preferred banks be able to process applications more quickly than others, or are they all going to be on equal footing?
I don't know, but I will find out, and we will get an answer to you, Kevin, and then you could share that out to the folks on the call.
We would be happy to do that. We've created a resource page on our website, and if anybody is looking for information, that is certainly a great place to go. I also should mention another question came in about whether this call would be recorded, and the answer is yes, it is being recorded, and we will have a link available. Let's see, got another questions come in here. Give me just a second. Sorry, I'm reading through it so I can summarize it, Mr. Secretary. To what degree has business been at the table as these orders have been drafted, and what type of collaboration would you like to see from the business community going forward to make sure that the business voice is being heard as we develop responses to this situation?
So business has very much been at the table here. The first order of, the first line of Governor Kelly's executive order says, whereas securing the health, safety, and economic well-being of residents of the state of Kansas is this administration's top priority. So the governor has been very balanced in making sure that we are protecting the public health of our residents while also doing everything that we can to support keeping our economy strong. What we need from business is good information, is data, frankly, on what you're seeing, what you're experiencing, and how we can be helpful to you. As secretary, I'm particularly interested in if there are ways that we can look to cut some red tape to make your life easier during this period. Maybe it's a temporary cut of red tape. Maybe it's a permanent cut of red tape. But I need to know what some of those barriers are. And so, we've been doing quite a bit of that internally. I mentioned the CDBG grants. There's a loan program we found called the Incentives Without Walls, where it was sort of hard for communities to use. So I was able to exercise my discretion and remove some of those barriers. So if you have ideas about what we can do to make things easier, please send them to me. Now, I want to stress that doesn't mean that they're going to happen. Every proposal needs to be evaluated against a whole lot of factors, and business is very important. But we've got a public health emergency that's happening in the state right now, and so we have to weigh these things. But don't hesitate to reach out. Again, it's david.toland, Toland, at ks.gov, and we will respond to your email, and it'll be thoughtfully considered.
Well, Mr. Secretary, we want to thank you for your time today. It's great that you're willing to have such a two-way conversation, I think, to hear what's going on in the community. And also representing our views as the administration makes its decisions. I just want to point out to you, we have been in the process of reaching out to all of our members. So we've been calling every member, trying to have a conversation about what's going on in their business, what do they need, and then to support that, we've also sent a small survey out to our members. So we're trying to capture a lot of this information. We'll be able to summarize that very shortly, and I think get the highlights to you. And hopefully that'll be of value to you and the administration as you continue to navigate the waters through this situation. So wanted to make sure you were aware of that. And again, I just want to thank you so much for your time. I know there's a lot going on, a lot of demands on your time, and the fact that you're willing to carve out some time for us is greatly appreciated.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for having me on here today. And yes, there's a lot of value to that survey data. You know, we look very closely at trends in Overland Park as the state's second largest city and a key economic driver of the Kansas economy. And we're very grateful for the relationship with the Chamber and with so many of the businesses that are on this call. And you know what, we're here to help. We're doing the best we can. And if you have suggestions, please reach out either to me directly or go through Kevin and Tracy and Beth and the folks at the Chamber, and they can get it to me. But we want to do everything that we can to support folks through this. This is it's a very difficult time. It is also a temporary thing that we're going through. Things are going to get better. We want folks to remember that and to stay strong, stay well, and take care through all of this. So I appreciate you having me on, appreciate everyone's efforts, and we'll do another one of these if it's helpful.
Well, we appreciate your time, as I said, and we will wrap up the call for now. And I think you can count on us staying in touch with you and sharing the needs and concerns and questions of the Overland Park and Johnson County business community. So with that, thank you. And you do have the Secretary's email address if you have additional questions. And we appreciate you all taking some time this morning.
Thanks, Kevin.